Just like the actual wedding itself. I mean, let's just say the young lady and the young man come together and get married. In most cases, you just don't pay for it. Who actually pays for it? I mean, in most cases, dad and mum pay for the wedding. Dad and mum pay for that wedding, and it's like, well, wait a second, all you paid for was half a dress and some hair and makeup, maybe. I mean, it's quite extraordinary how expensive a wedding can be, even to detail the way in which weddings are, having to feed everybody and bloody this, that, and all the establishments and all the shit that goes with paying for a marriage. Well, you can't afford it. We're talking about lifestyles exceeding incomes and incomes exceeding lifestyles. So that's why marriages end up in divorce within the first 3 to 5 years. More than 6 out of every 10 relationships in Australia, marriages end up in divorce within the first 3 to 5 years. Why? Because you didn't invest in anything. You didn't pay for the contract. If you didn't pay for the paper, even the prenuptial agreement, which once your pen hits the paper on a prenuptial agreement, you should be going to jail for 10 years for fraud. Right? If you didn't pay for it, then how the fuck can you draw on a contract in a court that says you're entitled to half of everything they got, but you didn't pay for it? You didn't show us. You didn't show us the perfect document, like coppers and the police enforcement agencies always want to be able to show proof. Your fucking lifestyle exceeding income, or your income exceeding lifestyle. How is that possible? It isn't possible. Therefore, why is it happening? Exactly why it's happening. You ain't got nothing. You haven't got anything. That's why you came together. That was part of the mystery of the subliminary. On the human masses, infanticide. But again, like, what the fuck do you mean infanticide? For a parent to be able to say to a kid, stand on your own 2 feet and pay for your own wedding. It's infanticide. What is it for anyone to say, well, look after yourself? Why the fuck would you get married if you can't fucking pay for it anyway? Why would you get paid if you can't afford to? How the fuck are you getting married and everybody else is chipping in to pay for that fucking thing? It's not how the world works. It is not how the world works, but this is exactly the overwhelming statistic in which shows up to where it like some title, I love him. No, you don't. Your mum or your dad knows you don't love him. And he knows you're going to rip his life apart. He knows it. What is it for a man? I mean, they say that a dog is a man's best friend and a diamond is a woman's best friend. So that means, well, what does that make you then, bitch? If a dog's a man's best friend, what does that make you then, bitch? It's like, you could fuck off with the kids and the diamonds, and he gets nothing but the dog, and half his fucking life and everything, probably his name and everything, trashed to the ground. But then that's what proves what's a weapon of integration. Love is just as volatile as peace, if not more dangerous than peace itself. Love. And so people wonder why they end up at wanting peace, because they can't face love. You don't know love. Love is very volatile, it's extreme. It's what you seek, but then once you get to peace, it's actually on the wrong side of love. It sends you to war. What should be on the right side of separating from that volatile situation, love, which fucked your life over, is supposed to go back to life. But far too often in your acute separation, and you go on to the second partner, and the third partner, and the fourth partner, carrying acute separation everywhere. Do you know how many broken young men there are? You know how many broken men there are in the world? They're broken. They're broken hearts. They're broken souls. Even the courts these days can't pick up on the fact that for a man to have a child, natural conception, is unmistakably inconceivable. So like the discrimination factor about who's the rightful parent, who should, for a man, in fact, to have a child, to naturally conceive a child, is in fact unmistakably inconceivable. But the courts usually find, in the local attitude and all the emotions and the attitude circulating around our community, is that women have a right to be a mother. Bullshit. All that you'd see is women with 5 children to 3 men, and 3 men with no fucking children, broken. They lost their fucking woman as it is. Now they lost their child. You might be mistaken to know why men actually get into contracts and have children. Because a man needs a woman to be able to conceive his kid. Even in the Middle East, going way back 2,000 years ago, for as long as we can remember in a good family, Aramaic law, family or anything, you are known as the son of your father. If you're not the son of your father, then it would be considered scandalous. How much more scandalous to see women with 5 fucking kids to 3 different men, and all 3 men turfed out with nothing. I mean, to men it breaks their heart. It's really a no-brainer to me where just like natural conception, different some other way, like test tube babies or some other way, in an extreme situation where a person's not seen fit to have a child, but then like straight off the bat, a man should be given 60-40 lopsided, approval to raise that child. Like you say that children need mothers, and all children need fathers, I'm sorry. And why wouldn't a man be a more suitable sort of someone to raise a child? I mean, you don't even give them half the amount of leeway, justice in the courtrooms to this day, 20 years later, 2 decades later, to be able to substantiate and to edify and fortify how men can actually appropriately raise a child. But if it's actually their natural conceived child, unmistakably inconceivable as it is, you might be mistaken to think that, men who are, separated from their fucking partner, their wife, right, are actually full-time employed. They might have a new partner, okay, fair enough, but then they're full-time employed. They've always been full-time employed. They just lost everything. They're doing the best of what they can. You can't sit there and emotionally try to sway imbalances towards anyone for anything. If you are the son of your father, you most definitely are the son of your father. Before anything, because a man should never be depraved. A man should never be not entitled to be a parent. If a man is a parent of a child, a natural biological father, he most very much is the natural biological father of that child. Therefore, don't ever mistake, given the gender or the race of our people, our constituent, upstanding civil society, of what it is to understand a man's need to be a parent. If a man really truly wants to be a parent, then you should never deny men of being the fortifiable degree of upkeep and maintenance of children that were naturally conceived by their involvement, whether contractual or circumstances in which led to a disagreement which is still to this day not being met by the greater temperances and the judgments of our courts and our people to address that very concern. The concentration like natural conception, lifestyles exceeding incomes, incomes exceeding lifestyles. Do you understand what I'm saying? You get it so wrong because like a fork in the road, you get it so wrong. You go on the other way. It's easy to understand XX, you don't understand YX chromosomes. And you wonder why your X treats you like a fly on the wall. Because it becomes a whim, a whimsical affair, a whim of entailment. You're just whimmed up, whimsical. You're withering like a memory in your fucking hands that doesn't exist. It's a blank space modification. And you think women are more fucking docile and manageable? You obviously don't get out enough. Women are so fucking vicious, rude and obnoxious, they're worse than some of the fucking men. And yet they have that effect, and yet whatever the fuck, it's easy to understand if someone's not able to or not ever. But like the contract, and like your investment, people should know straight off the bat, unless there's some form of confirmation, and don't ever make an advance on someone unless you can identify their need and meet their need. Otherwise, people are forever mistaken. Whilst you people try to conduct certain solemnity, right, or try to commendate for certain good usages related to the domestic / statistical product, in which shapes and revolves around a society resoluting past differences that has brought mankind to this corridor or this entry point analysis to safeguard our civil society for the 21st century. Nothing exceeds the fact that like this century, like last century, like this decade, like last decade, like any time in our life where education is the key, right? Our biggest challenge in this world, just like the way in which the statistics are imploding upon us, Our number one challenge in Australia, in the Western world, is saving our sons and daughters from falsehoods and fallacies. So in short, knowing right from wrong. Not living in a world of disbelief. It is not a fallacy world. To be able to call a spade a spade. They say fight fire with fire. It's one thing. The Bible might say eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Some great guy said a tooth for a tooth just means, an eye for an eye will mean the whole world go blind. But you know why that is? Because like an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, that's not what the Bible says. If you actually read on, it actually talks about if somebody goes the mile, it says go the extra mile. So that's like saying your old man, who knows better? And these old pricks, they've gone through a life of experience. They're men of age and long life, just like a woman too. Great mediators, these people, and they know better. They see you young youth, generated with ideological extremism, because apart from the fact that you're depraved and the shortfall of what you don't have ahead of time, you're too busy trying to snatch and grab even the human psychology. Universal depravity equals, or universal depravity demands universal destruction, right? Like the demands, like the depravity. Therefore, like the destruction, demand to do what? Look, smash and grab, bail in, bail out. Right? If you go, someone says go the mile, if someone's gone the mile, they say, try to walk a mile in my shoes. What the old man's saying, what the old lady's saying, you need to go the extra mile, and if not a further mile, because if they had the practical, physical strength, they would go the extra mile. They're great minds. Now they need your young people with the young physical, practical application to be able to go the extra mile and even a further mile. That's how generations are built. That's what it means to generate. Not to take a cringe and set back and call yourself homosexual. How mankind has fought long and hard for so long to become humans, to break free from homo, to become human. So therefore there's a further advance beyond human. It's to become human beings. You don't take a backward step. Homosexuals are like the closest thing to pedophiles. And my generation were running out of public toilets in fucking fear of their life from homosexuals. You can't escape that. So what does that do? You know that, but then it's okay. Well then are these people winning? Are these infantile people winning? These carnal-minded people? What is carnal mind? What is to have carnality? What is a carnal thinker? What is it to have carnal knowledge or to operate within carnal knowledge? The Bible says the carnal mind is enmity towards God. It is belligerent, it is hostile towards God. Like God, the greater power within you that knows that it's wrong for teenagers to be taken advantage of. The greater piece in you that knows that homosexuality is wrong. That it's about the concrete upkeep of your holistic, consecrated, individual self-worth and determination. You should never be taken away otherwise like a corrupt thing. The carnal mind is enmity towards God. So don't ever take for granted what it is to have an intimate, imminent affair at the greater control. At your greater control. What does it mean? Stand on your own 2 feet. Know what it is when you make an advance on someone, not to do the complete opposite and take from them. Not to scheme your way into their life. If you identify their needs and meet their needs, then leave them intact. When you love someone in a marriage, like you meet someone for the first time, if you want to separate, you wonder why you separated, because you're too busy trying to change them. But if you love them in the first place, and you wonder why there's problems, because you're not keeping them intact, that's where the problem exists. You're supposed to be adding on, generating, improving. If you're not doing that, then you've got a problem. There's a cross thread. There's a problem. All you can ask of your partner, it doesn't matter in the business world or in relationships, families, friendship, all you can ever ask is that your partner, your confidant, your companion in life is looking after themselves the same way you loved them when you found them. If it wasn't, then it speaks for itself. So even if you did, well, what is that problem? Exactly, that's the problem. Exactly, that's the problem. How dare you pass your problems on to somebody else? How dare you do that? And then in the end, like have kids involved. Kids suffer the most because it's essential to what it is. You don't. It's like what is essential? To know that people don't have families. Some people don't have families. Some families are brought together because they're a mixed group of multicultural races. But then, of course, that's like it always sort of is. That's why you give thanks over the food. That's why you bless the food when you come together as the food. Thank you. Be grateful that together you came as a combined strength. You came together and all helped to put that food that brought sustained health and nourishment to your body. It's a simple thanks. It's not even religious. It's to be thankful for what was put in front of you. Without each other, like company, like food, anything, it wouldn't be there. You've always got to be thankful of the fact. People can't see that. You can't see it because in a lot of cases, that infantile approach to life has governed our course of nature and our freedoms